The meeting is called to order. This month's meeting, would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wallace, welcome back.
Thank you.
Sean, you're still here.
You welcomed me last month, so that's okay. We're all good.
Welcome back again.
Thank you.
Approval of minutes. We have regular board minutes and ad hoc meeting minutes, if you've had a chance to look them over.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve them both. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Public input on agenda items. Anyone here from the public? Would like to speak? Good, I guess. Streetcar system performance report, Mr. Bracken.
Good afternoon. Had another very good month last month. 99.9% on-time performance with a total of 26.25 trips. We had 7.25 missed trips. One of the biggest contributors to that is the Marriott Waterside having a small fire during one evening, so got a little delayed there. Also, we have an air compressor failure on one of our cars that made us lose 2 trips out there. So we are remedying the air compressor issues currently. We are actually having a public outreach for vendors on Friday to come in for our solicitation that's already on the street for the replacement of all 10 air compressors on the system. So, 4 departed late reports during the month. We had no accidents or no incidents this month, so that's my goal. So, special service, we had quite a few lightning games, college football championship. The Ringling Brothers Circus was in town. THS, we did extra special for Mr. English, and Gasparilla, of course. We did Saturday night about 22,600-ish passengers on Saturday night this weekend with no incidents again. So I want to keep that record going. So, we also performed 17 PMIs, maintenance checks throughout the month, and we're scheduling a meeting within the next week or two with the city of Tampa on the rerouting of Channelside. Looks like we're going to have to move a catenary pole, and we're in talks with them already to make sure that that doesn't affect us any more than it has to. But I'll give you an update after I have a meeting with the city.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Greg. Legal and legislative reports.
I have nothing to report, Mr. President, other than we have bound coverage under the CSX policy.
Good.
And we have renewed it.
Yeah, Mr. Melnick is running a few minutes late, but he's going to give us a little presentation on what he accomplished,
Okay, good.
which is turns out to be pretty good.
Good, I hope.
And he'll be along in a few minutes.
Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Okay, good. Chair's report, I don't really either, except we had a committee meeting to talk about how we might extend morning service for the next 6 months. And I asked Catherine to talk to Bob McDonough. Bob, you want to just tell us what your thoughts were about that?
There were 2 issues. One was coming up with immediate funding to continue the morning service, and there's not money available for that. And then the second subject was looking at potentially funding that for next year. And Catherine and I talked loosely about money, and one of the questions was going to be if there was actually a savings in the insurance that could potentially be applied towards the operating of the streetcar, so we could come up with a net increase that would be necessary to fully fund those expanded hours.
Yeah, right. We shaved about $10,000 off the insurance, so that's not really going to be an option. Mm-hmm. I asked Catherine earlier. I think it's a shame. I think it's really a shame to discontinue the service after such a short period, because it was starting to carry people, and I think we're all going to look kind of embarrassed when we have to shut it down. I don't know that there's any option, but the one option I did ask her to look into was we do have a fair amount of money in our endowment, and we could take $185,000, which is what it would cost, out of it to run to run it until the next fiscal year. So it's really, you're talking $350,000 to run that morning service per year. That would require a budget amendment by HART and City Council, and we wouldn't want to do that. We wouldn't even want to begin. We wouldn't want to begin that process unless the city and the mayor's office were in favor of us doing that. Mm-hmm. So we're running out of time to tell HART that we want to do this or not. I don't know what the deadline is.
I wouldn't advocate for taking money out of the endowment. There's not a whole lot of money. There's not a whole lot of fudge factor. And also, I mean, I understand that it takes a while to build ridership, mm-hmm. but the first hour of it is particularly abysmal. There's not a whole lot of people from that 7 to 8 o'clock.
Right.
I mean, they did take a look at those numbers.
Right.
And if you want to be embarrassed about something, you could have watched me being interviewed on television about it.
I thought you did great.
Streetcar.
I thought you did great.
He,
no transit pays for itself. Yes.
Well, he cut out some of the other things. That the most successful one is the one in the city of San Francisco, which takes 25,000 people a day, not 25,000 people a month, and their
right.
fare box recovery is 44%.
Right.
Yeah, it's he skillfully clipped it.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've never treated us very kindly, but thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
Mike, did you have a question?
No, I actually, Ms. Egan has answered the question for me because I was going to ask how many people ride at each one of the hours that we have on there, and it looks like there's about 11 people that ride from the 9 a.m. hour. Am I correct? And then it goes up to about 23 people at the 10 a.m. and then at 11 a.m. it's about 34 people. So, I think that I agree with what Bob has said in terms of going after the endowment. I think that what we ought to do, if we want to continue to do some of that ridership, is maybe find sponsorship on a per hour basis, and maybe we can get some folks that might want to get involved in it. Some of the downtown, people that have workers that are interested in that. Maybe we can get them interested in trying to donate dollars to do that.
We talked about that at our committee meeting. Sponsors for the streetcar are few and far between.
Sure.
And it would take somebody with a lot of foresight to spend serious money to not carry very many passengers. And it's carried 10 or 12,000 passengers over the 6-month period, mm-hmm. which is not insubstantial, but it's not substantial.
Right.
And I think that one of the things we talked about was a new bus line, new route. They take a year and a half to see if it's going to work. I think if we could run it for a year and a half, it would become substantial. However, if the city isn't interested in us going to the endowment, neither are you, that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, because I don't know what our total amount of the endowment is now, but I know that we don't have a whole lot in terms of the difference between. I know that we had this past year put about $350,000 into the ferry. In partnership with the county and Pinellas County and St. Petersburg. And, I'm not sure if the ridership is any different. It's about the same in terms of the commuter, definitely for sure. Just like it is here, we have more folks that ride that are tourists or, for weekend trips than they are for early morning trips.
Right.
So it's the same.
Same thing.
Same thing, and... But, you never know. There may be some additional CRA dollars, maybe, that we could talk about. But we'd have to present it to the CRA board and make a decision from there.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mickey?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who uses it in particular to come here every time, for our morning meetings, I'm certainly sad if we have to make that decision, which, at least in the short term, I know that there are issues with staffing the streetcar and that, and the process that you have to go through, and how much time out in front of that you have to have in order to make that happen appropriately with the system, and I get that. As we move forward, excuse me, even if we have to do this, I'd like to look at options. I think there's nobody here. I know, Bob, you're certainly aware of this, and Mike, you are, with the parking situation we have in downtown right now. I know my firm's hiring people, and my problem isn't finding people, it's finding parking spaces for my people right now. And, are there options available for us to take a look at the city garages here in tandem with, a streetcar fare that you could have people park in Ybor, ride the streetcar back to downtown to get to work in the morning, and then really look at this, how we would supplement in terms of getting them in and about downtown as well. But I think those are options we should really look at investigating as new ways of trying to solve that problem as our downtown grows and we continue to have a bigger problem with parking. It's an option, it's an opportunity, it's an urban solution, and I'd really like to look at alternative ways to do that because I think it's something we could do. I know I've approached a couple of our younger staff, and they'd be all over that in terms of not even having to deal with downtown, in terms of getting right in the middle of downtown traffic and dealing with that, coming in here and riding the streetcar in. It's about timing, it's about how much time you have, but I think alternative options, if we could work deals out with buildings that are leasing space that are having trouble finding that parking that's available to them as they want to attract businesses. And I think we have an opportunity to have a unique solution to it, and I'd love to investigate, options and talk to different people about what we could or couldn't do with that.
Well, I like that as well, and I think that going to the CRAs might be time to do that and see what benefit they've enjoyed from the morning service throughout. Is that something that they pushed?
Yeah, they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Do we have to take any official action, or just say shut it down at the end of the 6 months?
It will shut down at the end of the 6-month window, March 24th, and we'll go ahead and start reaching out to the CRAs to get some staff briefings put together.
Yeah, you should.
And I mentioned to Director English earlier today that we are speaking to a candidate. I think we're into final negotiations for a new streetcar director, so not saying anything because I don't want to jinx us, but this candidate our staff was very pleased with, and I was sharing with Director English that we have an opportunity here to get someone who's not just technically very solid, but someone who's also passionate about the historic streetcar aspect and can be going with us to these CRA meetings and be a nice advocate. So we are guardedly optimistic that next time we meet, you will have a name and a face. If it's a relocation, I don't know that you'll have a director, but a name and a face at a minimum.
Good.
Can I
Yeah,
jump
sure.
in on this while I'm thinking?
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Greg. Greg, based on today's situation with the 2 cruise ships here, if we discontinue the service, what do you foresee that affecting them? They don't come in that often, but when they do, it's incredible. Do you think there's opportunity to either create all-day service when the ships are here, and is that something that the cruise line industry would be willing to help supplement for that based on the usage that they get from their passengers when they stop here? I'd hate to lose that option that's available to them as kind of a nice amenity when they come and visit our city.
Well, today is the last day for the Avita ship to come in. This is the last sailing for this year. So we'll have the summertime to relook at that, and I have no problem if the board wishes extra service when the cruise ship is ending. We can make that as an assignment as well. I don't see any problem with that at all. So, the Carnival ships are not as impacting on us as the Avita is. We've been standing room only since 7 o'clock this morning, so they've been loaded today. So they're using our system, and they always do when they come into town. So that's a good thing for us.
Good. Thank you. Anything else?
I just wanted to add on the Avita. The THS board 2 years ago, this is the second year that we're doing it, they did approve extended service for the Avita. So we do have extended service at THS as well.
Okay, good. Thanks. Since we're still on my report, I see Grant Melnick is here. Grant, could you come up and give us a brief summary of the CSX crossing policy, please?
Thank you.
He said that pretty with
Specifically
me.
exclude you, is that what I heard? So moved.
Let's see if we're moved by the pricing here. That's what you're supposed to say.
Well, let's go ahead and get right to it. Again, first of all, thank you for your trust and confidence in allowing us to go ahead and place the railroad liability policy for Tampa Historic Streetcar. Basically, this is what we were able to do this year. Even though the exposure from a revenue standpoint went up by approximately 24%, we were still able to offset that from any premium increases. And actually, what we did this year is we got a $10,540 decrease, even though our exposures went up 24%. That's incredible. Another important fact here is that the railroad markets are becoming very, very difficult. The good accounts such as THS, you guys are being rewarded right now because they further to the insurance marketplace that we run these streetcar in an appropriate manner, we do all the maintenance and so forth. So again, I think right now as we stand, this is just kind of a home run of a renewal. That's it. Quickly to go over it. Indian Harbor, they will remain the first primary layer of $25 million with a $100,000 deductible. Terms and everything, nothing has changed, and it complies with the CSX indemnity agreement and the tri-party agreement. Layer number 2, Great American Insurance Company. They are offering that second tier layer of $25 million, excess of $25 million. Once again, no terms have changed. We did work on pricing with them. We were able to get them down a little bit. But I do want to point out, keep in mind, is that the first layer that we just spoke about is absolutely critical to get that as low as possible, because that's a cascading effect throughout the entire tower. We are able to do that. Layer number 3, Steadfast Insurance Company, which is Zurich, $10 million, excess of $50. Layer number 4, Arch Specialty Insurance, $15 million, excess of $60 million. And layer number 5, this is the new carrier that I was telling you about. And I thought the layers 3, 4, and 5 this year were going to be in play with competition, and it worked out absolutely beautiful for us, and that did happen. Every single carrier really dropped their price at the end. Aspen is offering to complete the $100 million tower, $25 million, excess of $75 million. And they're a new participant. They replaced AIG and Star Indemnity. So as far as a overall tower perspective, any changes and variances, the top layer, Aspen, they are a new player, and they wanted THS's business very bad. And they really came down on price. So the total premium, last year our total expiring package was $342,237. This year, we were able to get that down to $331,000, essentially a savings of $10,540, even though our exposures went up 24%. All in all, this is an incredible renewal, and again, we've been able to keep the pricing flat for THS, for HART, and for the city, and this was an excellent renewal we had this year.
Any questions?
Just a quick question. So it was 4 layers last year, and now it's 5?
No, it's 5 layers last
It's 5 layers last year, so we got the same number of layers, but we've got a better pricing. So why don't we just keep going on, and maybe we'll get 100 layers, and we'll be able to save, as much as we can.
Realistically, I'd like to go to CSX and get these layers a bit lower to limit the liability.
Yeah.
Try to do something, but
Well, I'm kidding, because I know it's impossible to do. It'd still be $10,000 less, so.
worth a shot.
Listen, good job. I mean, to get any kind of savings, especially, you're right. I mean, the railroad market is just awful. There's very few companies that are willing to do it. I'm glad to see that, we got Aspen to do the last layer. As you mentioned, you said AIG and Star had been on it before.
Correct.
Not last layer.
So they were on the top layer last year.
Right.
And they were doing at an excellent rate. But the price that they kicked out this year just didn't make any sense. So we went to Aspen, and Aspen, they really, really wanted THS's business. They actually, at the very last hour, they redid their pricing and saved us another $50, $100. To me, and as you know, being an insurance executive, the carriers doing that at the last minute, they want your business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Good work.
Grant, could you explain when you said that our exposure, quote unquote, had increased by 24%? Can you explain that?
Sure. So the exposure from a revenue perspective went up 24%. This actually caught us off guard at the very end because we weren't expecting that. And really, when I drilled it down and looked at it, I kind of cross-referenced from Lee's financials and from HART's financials. What I found out is that portion of revenue is basically derived from marketing purposes. I think we collected more, about $90,000 this year in marketing revenue than we had in the past, and that caused the increase in fluctuation. It wasn't due to the ridership, so you have to kind of walk that line with the carriers and explain to them why our revenue did go up 24%. At the end of the day, my conclusion was it was derived from marketing income.
So as a practical matter, while our risk of being insured didn't increase, they treated us as if we had more ridership than we actually did.
Yes. Some of the carriers, 3 of these carriers specifically, all they use is ridership data. But 2 of the carriers use a combination in their composite rate of ridership data and any sort of other revenues. So that was I had to walk that line with them and explain to them. And I found it pretty quick because it was very important. But at the end of the day, that's really kind of what happened.
Well, thank you for all your good work.
Bob had a question.
We are looking at the potential expansion of the streetcar system. That's one of the things in the study. And if that were the case, there could be a second crossing. And I was asked what kind of effect that would have on the rates. And I didn't know if it would have any effect on the rates.
That's actually kind of true. So how the policy is written right now is they're taking the entire track. And essentially they do designated premises operations. Now, if you look at that endorsement and how that verbiage is, it doesn't stipulate whether if you cross another tracks, are they going to have to re-rate for that exposure. So what I'm getting at is, no, there shouldn't be any fluctuations by crossing another track. Just how the verbiage of that endorsement reads right now.
Okay, thank you.
Which is really good news.
Very
You made that happen last year or the year before?
A year before.
Yeah. When you cleaned the policy up. Okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, Catherine, do you have a report?
We had spoken briefly about safety last month.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Grant.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Grant. Appreciate it. Oops. Moving right along. How quickly we forget.
Back right around the turn of the year over the New Year's holiday, we had an incident that's probably not a good noun, but we had a pedestrian collision with one of the valets down at the Channelside area. And as we went through the reaction to this, a point that was highlighted is that HART has 14 million passenger trips. We have a very well-articulated policy for notifications, etc. The HART board does not hear about an accident unless it's pretty grievous in nature. We have so few incidents on the streetcar line that even using the same HART information, you won't hear very often. So we, in a conversation with Director English and David Smolker, was a recommendation to come back and talk a little about our safety program to help you understand all the things that our staff does look at, not just from the federal compliance, but from general safety. So we have asked Chester Simon, he's making a face at me, rail safety specialist, to come and talk a little bit about our safety programs today. And based on any comments and questions, we could come back with a more official presentation. But just there is an awful lot that goes into keeping everybody safe on the streetcar system, and it's we should brag. It's a good job that our staff is doing.
My name is Chester Simon. Starting with the accident incident notification process, I sent Michael English and Mr. Smoker the accident notification process that we use. It's got 5 tiers in it, and at certain levels we would notify certain people. So it would either be internal HART management all the way up to the FDOT. We've agreed that at level 3, that's when they would get notification, and that would usually entail something like a transport to the hospital. Also at a level 3 would be one of the things that we would notify FDOT, where things that are below that we would handle internally. Now, that being said, the comprehensive safety program that we have does more than just accidents. It does accidents, incidents, and hazards. So we'll identify hazards either through shop inspections, through safety meetings, through line inspections, where we'll go out and we'll actually audit the daily workings of the employees that are out there to identify hazards, or we'll actually do audits of the streetcar motormen as they're driving the streetcars. And those sorts of things, we'll collect that data, analyze it, and then come up with a corrective action. that corrective action process will be either addressed by the department or by safety or all the way up to the CEO if need be. After that corrective action is taken care of, that is, so to say, the low-hanging fruit, and that low-hanging fruit should then reduce accidents in a certain area. That pretty much that's the safety program in a nutshell. It's one of the safety programs that's derived from APTA standards, and it's one of the things that FDOT is pushing really hard down from the FTA.
Any questions? We're glad you're on the job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chester. And that concludes my CEO report.
Thank you. Direct media report?
Obviously, Lori couldn't make it today, and there's really nothing that she has in the hopper right now, but I did want to let you know something that we're doing internally, taking the bull by the horns, not because I see USF colors between Mr. Mike and Miss Catherine, and all due respect to Dr. Sean with the colors. But anyway,
it's not green, but
it's the yellow with the green.
I see. I got you.
I
got you.
Combined.
All right.
So, sorry.
I'm not going to wear her coat, though. Go ahead.
You know what? I don't make judgments. Anyway, something that we're doing internally, taking the bull by the horns, is that we're taking a hard look at all the stations and the signage, and also what we can do and how we can do revenue. Internally, I've relied on some of my colleagues that I've worked with in the past at Fortune 100 companies and with some advertising agencies. We've come up with a formula such that a lot of the stations are unnamed. So in the next couple of weeks, we will come out with a reasonable schedule of how much each should cost. We also have our super person, Cesar Hernandez, our government relations specialist, has also been out there and needs a number to help sell that. And so I just wanted to let you know that is behind the scenes, and we are going to get some of those naming rights done. And bringing more money for Mr. Lee. So
Thank you so much.
That's my report for
That's great.
for Lori. And plus also, if Lori doesn't do it, THS gets 100%.
Great. We have one Thank you, Steve. We have one action item resolution. Mr. Hofstetler.
Mr. President, Board, for the record, I'm Lee Hofstetler, the City of Tampa's Chief Accountant. We handle the books for you. I was here last month, and we had a draft ready for you. You should have in front of you now the final hard copy. I have with me today Mr. Brett Friedman. He's the partner in charge from RSM, the audit firm that completed the audit. I wanted to say publicly that I was pleased with them. He and his firm brought a fresh set of eyes to the process, and he had some constructive improvements. And so what you have in front of you with the final copy has the same net at the bottom. But, for example, in the past, in the draft you have in your package, we had the expenses all in one operating expense, and he thought that it would be a good idea to break out, for example, the insurance and the HART. So if you look at your final report, it'll have two lines there. One thing he brought to my attention, which I thought was interesting, and maybe you will too, is that you're a not-for-profit, and I thought because the City of Tampa and HART are both governmental that you had to follow governmental accounting, but as it turns out, you could follow financial accounting standards if you wanted to, but of course, we would prefer that you follow governmental accounting because that's what we do every day. So I was pleased with the perspective that they brought, the fresh eyes, and you have in front of you the final version. I would ask if you have any questions for Mr. Friedman. He's here with me. And after that, if you will adopt the resolution to accept this final version as the official statements for publication and distribution.
Thank you, Lee. Are there any questions of our auditor or of Lee? Appearing to be none. Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please?
Move to accept.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Thank you. Nice
Thank
job.
you very much.
And I apologize for making you come and not even be able to speak, but thanks for coming nevertheless.
Not a problem.
Okay. We have compliance reports, if you're interested, if you have any questions. If not, is there any old business? Is there any new business?
Can I make
Yeah,
a comment?
yeah.
I wanted to go back to the safety record. I just want to go on record and saying I think it's absolutely remarkable what our safety record is based on my observations as a streetcar rider and as somebody who lives very near the track and goes by it every morning on my way to work. Certainly in downtown, the streetcar tracks are becoming a quasi-bike lane now. If you haven't seen that, there are more and more bikers using it with complete and total disregard to what the streetcar does. I saw an incident last night on the way home with a car that just decided on Broadway Street that they were just going to park in the middle of the streetcar track waiting for the light to turn while the streetcar was coming. I will say that the driver got quite a jolting surprise when the streetcar blew the whistle, about 40 feet away from her. But it's just, I just want to commend everybody here, and in particular our operators, the motor people that do that, because I see so many things like that with pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists who just completely ignore the tracks, the streetcar, and that, and go about their way oblivious to it, and the way that it's navigated by our staff is remarkable. So I just wanted to say that, and I want to thank them for that, because it is truly, they do an amazing job.
With regard to that, that's actually one of the things that's currently being worked on by the city. They're out doing a study right now. It should be wrapping up at the end of February. That is a study of the entire streetcar line for its compliance with the MUTCD. For those who didn't know, in 2002, we did an MUTCD, which is the Municipal Uniform Traffic Code, and that traffic code at the time only designated us as a streetcar. In 2009, that MUTCD under 8D changed, and we then became a light rail vehicle. Being that we're a light rail vehicle, we're also afforded different privileges, as it were, as a rail line. Kittleson and Associates, which I believe Michael's aware of, is out there doing a study, and that study is involving first the lines that are on the right-of-way. They're looking at the pedestrian crossings and the locations for the pedestrian crossings. The example of the accident that occurred crossing the cruise ship is one of them. They're looking at the lights and the signals. Lights and the signals are one of the problem. Everybody will see the no left turn, no right turn, and turn anyways. The lights are yellow, they should be red. And lighting along channel side and underneath Adamo are also an issue that is being addressed in the study. Once the study's wrapped up, they're going to make a recommendation to the city, all the things that need to be covered, and then the city's going to roll out a plan to go and correct all of these things that should be at a certain level. And of course, there's going to be a lot of tugging and pulling from EBOR because it's a little different than channel side. But ideally, in the next few years, you should see an entire different streetcar line that's brought up to a higher standard, and things like what you're seeing should go away. Talking to the Signal and Signs Department, we've got missing signs at certain locations from the city, which they've already got a plan that they put out to us, and these signs are going to be replaced, including delineators around those dividers. They're going to be looking at putting in methods to keep bicyclists off the right-of-way, because we already had one bicyclist that fell off the sidewalk onto our track, and that then becomes an incident that we call FDOT on. While not reportable, we still call FDOT on it. We're expected to react accordingly. So just so that you know, there is a study out there right now, and at the end of February, it should be starting to wrap up.
Great, thank you.
All good?
All good?
Everybody else good? If so, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.